Near mint condition, the home of collected editions.
That cover's so awesome. That, as they say, is that. Marvel Comics. Let's go ahead and get started. It is finally here, all you mentees. One of the most wanted Marvel Omnis of all time. And yes, it is X-Men. And yes, we are talking about X-Men, the Messiah Trilogy Omnibus. Today on Near Mint Condition, I, the Uncanny Omar, I'm going to give you an advanced look inside of this book, how it's mapped, what the extras are, and what the stories are about. Plus, look at this artwork. So let's go ahead and get started. Before going any further, a big thank you to the folks at Marvel for sending us a copy of this omnibus. This omnibus is due out in the direct market and book market on July 21st or 22nd, depending on where you get your books. And speaking of book market and direct market, what we are looking at here is the direct market cover. This one's supplied by Adi Granov, featuring characters. This is the second coming era of this trilogy. On the left-hand side is your standard edition cover. That one is supplied by David Finch, and it features the characters from the Messiah Complex era, because we are talking about 3 different eras in this overview. And yes, there is a difference in the spine. The David Finch, Hope, and then the Adi Granov, Hope with Rogue. Everything underneath the dust jacket is the same. So bringing the focus back to this Messiah Trilogy, I love that there's an X there. And then, of course, the spine of the book again, Marvel Omnibus, Messiah Trilogy, Rogue and Hope. And then this image by Chris Bachalo. Where there's life, there's hope. And hope plays a big central part in all of this. Now, while I have the dust jacket on, let's go ahead and put it on the shelf, because it is a little bit of a weird placement. I'm putting it here right after Endangered Species, before Avengers, X-Men Utopia, and before X-Force. But really, it belongs in between X-Force 1 and 2, and, of course, after Necrosha. So, because there's 3 different eras in here, kind of belongs a little bit of everywhere, so really it's up to you where you want to put it. Now, this has been previously collected before in a series of trade paperbacks, as well as those X-Men Milestone books, and a series of oversized hardcovers. Some of these have been out of print for years, so that's why people were super excited about this era. I'm going to go ahead and say 2 things. If you are anything like me, and one issue will keep you from getting rid of your oversized hardcovers, because you're getting it replaced by this, oh man, I'm going to go ahead and say you want to keep these 2. Because this actually has a couple more issues of Cable, and this has one more one-shot that is not collected in here. But everything in these 2 books, Second Coming and Messiah Complex, is in here. So just to let people know, if you're somebody that's like, oh my gosh, I can't get rid of that, it's got 1 issue. Yeah, I'm that idiot. There are dozens of us, I'm sure. But pretty much most of the stuff in here, like 98% of the stuff in here, okay, more accurate, 95% of the stuff in these 4 oversized hardcovers are in here, because they did add things from Revelations, which is great to see. And we will do a comparison to one of those oversized hardcovers in a little bit. The dust jacket flaps here, a little bit about the Messiah Trilogy. Surprised it's not broken down into 3 different paragraphs. And then these creators, Ed Brubaker, Mike Carey, Peter David, Matt Fraction, Craig Kyle, Dwayne Swarzynski, Christopher Yost, Zeb Wells, Chris Bachalo, Mike Choi, Clayton Crane. Oh my gosh, just the talent that went into this particular, these eras. I love the inks here on Mark Silvestri. This was actually supposed to be the variant cover for this maybe at one time, but it is the cover that they used for the oversized hardcover. I think they also used it for the Milestone, if I'm not mistaken. I did an overview of those. That is the standard dust jacket spine. Oh, and this beautiful piece by David Finch of Rogue. So, what are we waiting for? Let's go ahead and crack this open and talk about these different eras of X-Men. All right. There's your end sheets and your title page. I love that image of Cable and Hope. The Messiah Trilogy and the credits. We talked about some of these creators, but it is broken down by the different creators and story arcs. This is not the way it's mapped, by the way. And I'm going to go ahead and say, the mapping on this, oh my gosh, chef's kiss. I really thought they were going to put all of Second Coming together and leave X-Men Hellbound and Blind Science, Uncanny Homer Talk Pretty One Day, Blind Science, all the way to the back. Nope. Hellbound is intertwined with the story, baby. It is in between issues, and that, my friends, gets a chef's kiss from the Uncanny Omar. That's how you do mapping. And I say that because that's the way I would have mapped it. That's the way I read it. Okay, so let's talk about what's collected in here. Then I'm going to talk about the stories, and then, of course, look at the extras and build. What's collected in here is X-Men, the Messiah Complex one-shot, Uncanny X-Men 492 to 494, 523 to 525, X-Factor 25 through 27, New X-Men 44 to 46, Adjectiveless X-Men 205 to 207, X-Men The Times and Life of Lucas Bishop 1 through 3, X-Force Cable Messiah War one-shot, Cable 13 through 15, X-Force 14 through 16, 26 through 28, Second Coming Prepare, the X-Men Second Coming one-shots, two shots, 1 and 2, New Mutants 12 through 14, X-Men Legacy 235 to 237, X-Men Blind Science one-shot, X-Men Hellbound 1 through 3, and X-Men Future History, the Messiah War source book. This book has a total of 1,160 pages, $125. It's X-Men. I'm not going to go deep into spoilers. It's going to be hard, but this is my first time doing an overview of these particular stories. Well, no, actually, I did the milestone, but just in case, I don't want to spoil things for people. Not too much. I do have to talk about the pitch and this particular era. So that is very important. So spoilers for some of the stuff that came before this and the pitch for these stories, because we are talking about years apart, as you probably noticed. Uncanny X-Men 492 to 494, and then we're jumping to 523 to 525. What about the issues in between? Those aren't collected in here. Those aren't collected in omnibus format, really. That is the Matt Fraction era, towards the end of the Ed Brubaker run. Okay, so let's talk about the first part of this 3 events collection, because we have 3 different events. We have Messiah Complex, and then we have Messiah War, and then we have Second Coming. That is known as the Messiah Trilogy. For years, I thought that Necrotia X was part of that and not Messiah War. That kind of is stupid, right? With the name Messiah War. But the third one isn't called Messiah Coming. It's just called Second Coming. All right. This is the first crossover event in years for X-Men. X-Men was so out of touch with each of the comics that they were putting out that it really felt like you were reading different people's take on X-Men. And then finally, Joe Quesada, who was editor-in-chief at the time, decided, okay, let's bring it back home. Let's bring it back to what people like about X-Men. And what do we like? Crossovers. Really, that's what we like. We like comics talking to each other. So this is the first of the crossovers. This is after House of M, and they saw the popularity in that. And then, of course, there was Civil War. So they decided, let's bring the X-Men crossovers back. They got Mark Silvestri to draw the one-shot with Ed Brubaker writing this story. But after House of M, no more mutants, only 198 mutants remain. Then Cerebro reads a signal from a new mutant, a baby. So the X-Men immediately go there to this town, and the entire town is burning. It seems like the Marauders were here, the Puritans were here, and there was a huge fight that they missed out on. Also important to note, this is during the Mike Carey era, that Gambit is running around with the Marauders here, and Rogue during this time is also in a bit of a coma, but that's the sort of important things. We have the reintroduction of Predator X, which was a character that showed up in the pages of the new X-Men. So where is the baby? What happened to them? So they go after the Acolytes. It felt really nice because it seems like they were bringing back classic characters. You had the Marauders, you had some newer villains, like the Puritans, you have the Acolytes back, but they decide to kind of separate into different teams, where Cyclops sends Multiple Man and Layla Miller to visit Forge, and Forge decides that, okay, we can separate Multiple Man and send 2 of his duplicates into the future, 2 possible futures, to find out where this baby went. Richter is told, by the way, during this time he lost his powers, and he is part of X Factor, but he is going to pretend to be one of the Purifiers to see if they have the baby. So the teams are separated. The X-Men are with the Acolytes, or fighting off against the Acolytes, and then we have X Factor. We have the new X-Men that are dealing with Predator X because they feel like they've been left out. So it's all about finding this baby. As it turns out, there's Mr. Sinister and the Marauders here. Again, it's like a return to these classic villains. As it turns out, the person with the baby is none other than Cable. So Cable has this baby who we are calling Hope. And now the X-Men find out, and so do the villains. So Lady Deathstrike, everybody gets involved, going after them. There's this Predator X creature that is going around eating mutants. One of the things that happens through this crossover, a very important thing, is that Cyclops decides, okay, we need to have a secret operative team, a secret Black Ops team, to do whatever it takes to take down Cable and bring that baby back. This is his son he's talking about. So Wolverine gathers a team of Warpath, who was with the X-Men at the time, Hepzibah, who was also with the X-Men, Rain, who was of the X Factor, X-23, who had just joined the ranks of new X-Men, and Caliban. And he made X-Force. Now, this is the Colin Yost X-Force, not the Rick Remender Uncanny X-Force, not the Rob Liefeld and Fabian Nicieza X-Force. It is the Colin Yost X-Force. And they are that Black Ops team that will do whatever it takes, including killing and working for Cyclops in secret to take down Cable and bring the baby back. So there are some character deaths that are done through here. There are some fights. And then I have to talk about this because it becomes the big part of the next story. And that is the character of Bishop. Bishop, because he's from the future, knows the importance of this character, Hope. And I don't want to go into details about this, but he does want to harm the baby. He doesn't believe that the baby is actually bringing mutants together, actually bringing hope to the X-Men. He wants, in a dark, twisted way, to get rid of the baby, and not as in, like, put her up for adoption. So that's what the first crossover is. So in a way, Bishop kind of becomes a villain, which a lot of people didn't like. And that leads into the next crossover. But before the next crossover, we have the Bishop miniseries. This is known as Bishop, the Times and Life of Lucas Bishop. This is by Duane Straczynski, and we have the return of none other than Larry Stroman on art. This is memories of who he became. This is... Oh, sorry. Did not mean to move the camera if I did. But this is who he ended up becoming, and this is the reasons why. In here, you're going to see not just Shard Bishop, his sister, but also Burnham Bishop, Katie Bishop, there's Bishop's grandmother, and you're going to see the way they were treated in these almost like concentration camps that they have for mutants in the future, and why he is determined to put a stop to Cable. So in a way, he becomes this villain throughout the Cable ongoing series by Straczynski. And that's when we have the next crossover. The next crossover is called the Messiah War. It is a crossover just between X-Force and Cable. X-Force, again, the Colin Yost era, and Cable by Duane Straczynski. Cable has the baby, and he's racing her, and she ages a little bit through here, while Bishop decides to team up with none other than Strife to take down Cable. Now, this is where it gets a little bit... Let me see if they do a good job, because in between issues, they tell you a little bit. Let's see. Recently, X-Force was seconds away from saving their friend's life from certain death, from the Leper Queen. So yeah, if you had been reading X-Force, you know that they were about to save Boomer. What is her name? Tabitha's... Meltdown? Is that what she was going by? Right before she ends up getting killed by the Leper Queen. But instead, Cyclops decides to send the team to the future. Now the X-Force team, who's wearing these black ops outfits, are X-23, Wolverine, Archangel, Domino, Warpath, Elixir, and the Vanisher. Plus, we have a few others in and out of the team. But they get sent to the future to go and stop Cable. In the future, they find Deadpool. And how Deadpool ends up 900 years into the future is the most ridiculous Deadpool way of ending up in a possible future. As it turns out, this isn't really the Age of Apocalypse that they thought they were going to be entering. And Cable isn't really the supervillain they thought they were going to be fighting. But instead, this is the Age of Strife. And Strife has decided to team up with none other than Bishop. So that miniseries, The Life and Times of Lucas Bishop, does give you a little bit of a foreshadow as to things that are to come and why Bishop is acting a certain way. And Apocalypse gets involved through here, and there's time displacement. There's a reason why some of these mutants are stuck into the future. And what happens when they go back to the past? Are they able to save Boom Boom? Unfortunately, that's not in here. That is found in the pages of X-Force by Colin Yost. Hopefully, we will get that in an omnibus one day. But as you can see, hope has been growing a little bit because it's been a year since the previous crossover. Now we get to the final crossover. So that is X-Men Messiah Complex and X-Force Cable Messiah War. Now we can talk about this Messiah Trilogy, last book in here, and that is Second Coming. We start off with this recording by Roxy interviewing the mutants about the loss that they've had. So it kind of sets up what's going to happen here. So Cable has returned to the present from the future, and he is joined by Hope, who is now a teenager. This might be the Hope that you're familiar with if you've been reading comics for the last, I don't know, when did this come out? 2010? So about 16 years. 15 or 16 years, this is the Hope you might be familiar with. And they are immediately attacked by the right. The Smileys from the right, Cameron Hodges' group. Cameron Hodge is not the only villain that is through here. So the X-Men now are united to fight off against these villains that have formed an alliance. The Leper Queen and the right. But the big baddie, I can't believe I said baddie, God. The big bad that is through these pages is none other than the return of Bastion. And that's not a big spoiler, he is all over the place. But along with Bastion and the Purifiers are villains like William Stryker, Graydon Creed, Stephen Lang, Bolivar Trask, and with the right comes Cameron Hodge. So Bastion is leading them, telling them that the Mutant Messiah has returned to the present, and because of his weird and messed up ways, they have to kill her. So it's all of these villains with their teams attacking the X-Men. And this is when the New Mutants get involved. There's Cameron Hodge, and you have Greg Land doing that artwork. There are some badass moments that happen through here. I think this is one of the better crossovers. I still think Messiah Complex is the best one out of the three, but this comes a close second. No pun intended with the name Second Coming. You have some wonderful talent when it comes to the art. And as I was saying, with the way that it's mapped, Hellbound is in between chapters of... I can't show you what happens at the end of this chapter because there's something huge that happens. But what ends up happening with the story of Hellbound is that during the fight, this taking place during the events of Uncanny X-Men 524, so beautifully mapped, issue number 1 is all how Magic is injured in battle. So she goes into her sanctuary of Limbo, and the X-Men don't know where she went. Like, Colossus is facing Cyclops and blames him, because everybody just loves blaming that guy, because, well, kind of brings it on himself. So she ends up going to Limbo. But because of Limbo and the way that it is, there is a fight for control of Limbo. And there are villains down there that want to take control. So the New Mutants get involved. So part of the New Mutants and some of the X-Men end up going down there, while some of them are fighting for the main event here in the actual Second Coming crossover. Blind Science, another one of the one-shots. Beautifully put in here, too, because this has to do with the X Club. So we're looking at people like Dr. Nemesis and Madison Jeffries, Box, and Dr. Kavita Rao. This one-shot right here leads directly into the next book. But the X-Men send the X-Club to try to figure out what exactly Bastion is plotting, because they don't really know exactly what he wants. But they kind of fall into this master plan that Bastion has, and it leads directly into the next issue. Again, beautifully mapped. There are also some character deaths in here, very important character deaths that you can find out for yourself. And again, Hellbound issues are put beautifully in between issues through here. And that's all really I will say about this. But I'm going to show you one more thing. The outcome of this event, the outcome of Second Coming, has a new title, and that is Uncanny X-Force. So it sets up the Uncanny X-Force team that is Rick Remender's Uncanny X-Force. Available in omnibus format. Printed 2 different times. Actually, 3 times it's been printed. We really need that X-Force by Kyle and Yost. And that Cable in an omnibus format from this era. Hell, we need Cable just in general. So that's all I will say about the trilogy. And the mapping. Let's look at the extras, because there's a lot. So we have the Messiah Complex source book here, along with some of the pinups. And this is the Simone Bianchi. I think this piece had to be changed because Sunfire, Simone Bianchi drew the wrong Sunfire. Instead of drawing the classic outfit, he drew the Age of Apocalypse outfit. This will tell you some of the status quo for these characters during Second Coming. And that's why they look a little bit different. I'm going to skip a little bit through here because we need to get to the rest of the extras. And characters that play an important part through here. And then we have Cable's arsenal, his weapons of choice, Apocalypse, important storylines. And then we have the sketch variant, the issue number 1 variant, Dynamic Forces variant, and some of the variant covers for the actual event. What's interesting is that back then we only had like 1 variant cover per issue. Had this been done now, man, this omnibus would have been like thumbnail size covers, because it would have been a lot more than just this. And I'll do a comparison to the hardcover here in a second. We'll do the Messiah Complex hardcover. But I'm just glad that this is back in print, not in an oversized hardcover way, but in an omnibus way. And these are from the Legacy issues. She has Return. Oh, this is the promotional art. The Summit notes. Man, I'd love to attend X-Men Summit one year. Goals, right? And then the art process. And your end sheets. So let's take a look at the build. 1,160 pages. This one is printed at the Donley printer. It does have sewn binding. And you probably saw that it lays over really nice. So let's look at, the double page spreads. No gutter loss. And as far as the bleed through, this does have minimal bleed through. I mean, of course, when I'm looking for a white page or light colors, there we go. I mean, very minimal bleed through. It's just common these days with Marvel and DC Omnis. What I want to do, though, since we have this, let's do a quick little comparison to this book. So, as you can see, the frame is different. It's black. This actually is printed in a thick, glossy paper stock. So the colors are going to look a little different, like so. You can tell this has more of a bluish tint, whereas over here it has a greenish tint. But it is thick, glossy paper stock compared to the thinner glossy paper stock that we have here. And I wanted to do a comparison when it came to the actual... where was that page that I need? Ah, there we go. Bleed through that's happening, which is very minimal to begin with, but just out of curiosity, how it looks compared to this. Yeah, so it's a little more prominent over here, but honestly barely noticeable. Now, you probably saw the way that it lays over with this double page spread at the very beginning of the Messiah Complex, where we have literally no gutter loss, whereas over here, we're dealing with some gutter loss. Well, that's due to the binding. Now, if you're wondering, what, man, do I really need these? No, I mean, this has what 11, yeah, this has cable 11 through 15. Whereas this book over here has cable issues 13 through 15. So you're missing 2 issues from here. And then the other one is this. Now, this is not even a full issue. It is just part of an issue of Hope #1. Written by, I'm surprised it's not in here though, because it is written by Straczynski and drawn by the wonderful Steve Dillon. But just shows Hope as a teenager. And it's not even that many pages. It's like maybe 20 pages, if that. But perhaps whenever we get a cable omnibus, they can put it in there. So I probably won't keep this just for those pages. But that's really what's missing from here. And that, as they say, is that. If you're interested in purchasing this omnibus, don't forget to check out our sponsors.
If you're in Europe and you're interested in buying these books, definitely check out Walt's Comic Shop in Berlin, Germany. They have the cheapest pre-order prices, flat shipping rate of €12 for all EU countries, emails answered within 24 hours, waltzcomicshop.com, and you can use the code nearmintcondition at checkout and get free shipping for all EU countries with your first order over €40. That's Walt's Comic Shop, your reliable source for omnis and premium collected editions in Europe. Ding!
If you live in Australia and you're into big books, comics, collectibles, and trading cards, check out kingscomics.com. They are located in Sydney, Australia, so you can go to their physical storefront or order directly online. Whether it's new releases, back issues, rare to find books, they have it all. It's one of those stores you can lose your track of time in. So if you're looking to pick something up, you can get 5% off your graphic novels and larger format books with the code NEARMINT5. Check them out in-store or online. That was the content, the page count, and build of this omnibus, plus the comparison to the oversized hardcover. If you have any questions, leave them down below. Don't forget to smash that like button on the way out. Check us out on Patreon and Spreadshop, amazing ways to support the channel if you can do so. And if you did end up pre-ordering this or are getting it day of, let me know which cover you chose. Did you go with the David Finch cover or did you go with the Adi Granov cover? Any questions? Below? Everyone, stay healthy and safe out there. Much love.